So it looks like Owen Jones has finally discovered the culture war, and whilst it's fairly easy to predict which side of it he falls onto, I think his perspective and commentary in this video in particular give a good indication of everything wrong with the conversations we ever have at the moment. Here he's trying to defend the British Labour Party not allowing straight white males into one of their equalities conferences. But anyway, I'll just let him take it away.
Welcome to episode 5083 of Oh My Word, the Tories are really, really desperate.
This isn't particularly relevant and just an aside, but I don't quite understand what that's supposed to mean. I mean, to say that this is a desperate criticism is to say what exactly? I mean, is that supposed to be some kind of comment with regards to its validity? I mean, either the criticism is valid or it's not, and I don't really see the value in attributing variables such as desperation to your opponent's arguments, but that's really besides the point.
So there's a Young Labour conference, it's for under 27s. It's an equalities conference for groups in society which are underrepresented and face systemic prejudice and discrimination. We're talking about LGBT people, we're talking about BME people, we're talking about people with disabilities, we're talking about women, in a society which, let's be fair, is dominated by straight white men, where BME people face racism, where women are underrepresented in politics and society, are paid less than men, who face systemic sexual harassment, sexual abuse, sexual assault, rape and so on. Now,
right, there's really quite a lot to unpack there, but essentially he just said three things. He said that LGBT, BME, women and disabled people face systemic prejudice and discrimination in British society, that society is dominated by straight white males, and number three is implied vis-a-vis number two, that this is a result of some kind of inorganic or nefarious process. Now those really are quite the claims, and the confidence with which he asserts them is a bit of a problem for me. But hold on, remember these because you'll need them in a moment.
Now, back in 1970, you'd only just had partial decriminalisation of homosexuality. Things were a lot worse than they are today, in terms of attitudes, in terms of so many anti-gay laws. Because people struggled and fought LGBTQ people, they organised together, they used their voice, they used their power and strength collectively to transform attitudes and to get rid of those laws. And that's why we're here in terms of the strides we've made ever since. But there's still so far to go. Massive prejudice. I wouldn't hold hands with somebody in the street without fear of abuse, violence or otherwise. LGBT people have far higher levels of mental distress. LGBTQ services are being slashed. I could go on. So we need a space for LGBTQ people to come together, to organise and to take on these issues that specifically affect LGBTQ people.
Right, so this ties up the problem nicely. Owen's entire case rests entirely on the notion that a particular group, in this case LGBT people, are under siege within society. In fact, it's the central pillar to his argument, and yet it escapes any kind of critical examination and is just asserted like dogma. Now, you may ask, what's the problem with this? The problem is that the people making these criticisms, which Owen is attempting to refute in this video, are obviously not going to agree with these presuppositions. More specifically, the ones I outlined earlier, that LGBT people are under siege, that society is dominated by the straight white male, and unfairly so. So that really raises the question, who is this video for? Because it's certainly not for people who disagree with Owen Jones. This is obviously a video for people who already accept Owen's collectivist worldview. He's really preaching to the choir, because anybody who disagrees with him isn't even going to be able to get 3 minutes into this video and engage with his argument, because they're going to believe it to be founded on patently false premises.
Please actually understand this, because hypocritically, the Tories have an organisation co-founded by Theresa May called Women to Win. And what that does is help train up, give networks to women to get more Tories who are women elected as MPs. Now, they do training events that are only open to women. Is that discriminating against men? Or is it just going, hang on a minute, women are massively underrepresented in politics. We need action to do something about that in a male-dominated society. So let's have this space for women to organise together. It's just basic common sense.
Again, different argument, but he runs into the same problem. Owen's entire case is founded on the notion that society is unjustifiably dominated by men. Now, just as before, nobody who disagrees with this argument is going to grant him this premise. Subsequently, Owen isn't making an argument for his set of values or principles, he's simply describing them. What possible purpose could a video like this have then, other than to reinforce the existing views of the people who follow Owen Jones? When people talk like this, there can be no point of contact between two opposing sides. They'll simply run parallel with each other by dint of their opposing principles and presuppositions, and the longer they do so, the more radical they tend to become.
But what this is really about is a culture war. The Tories are trying to, in their desperation, open up a culture war. That's why they've used this whole Jacob Rees-Mogg thing the other week where it all kicked off. Do you remember there was this Barney and a punch was thrown and all the rest? And now they're saying we're going to send more Tory MPs to universities in the hope that it will kick off because it's about free speech on campus and we've got to defend it.
I'm afraid Owen is unequivocally wrong on this count. Nobody manufactured these tribal schisms. They're a product of our astounding failure over the last few years to separate ideas from identity and effectively root our ideas in principle and build them from the ground up. That clip of Jacob Rees-Mogg is the apotheosis of that. What we have are two sides, tribes perhaps would be a more effective descriptor, standing on top of their respective towers, screaming and slinging mud at one another, all whilst they impute horrendous motives of their opponents and remain unwilling as ever to discuss principles and actually find the source of their differences. I mean, if you genuinely believe one of your opponents to have bad motives, what could they possibly say to redeem themselves? In fact, there is nothing they can say to redeem themselves, because whatever they say will be tainted by their motive. I mean, just to go back to the clip of Jacob Rees-Mogg, what is this if not an astounding failure in human communication? While Owen Jones is right about one thing, yes, this is what a culture war looks like. The question is, how did we get here? We got here through videos like these, videos like Owen's, videos that were not designed to appeal to anyone outside of our already existing political circle, content showcasing arguments designed to reinforce rather than challenge our existing worldview. I've said it a million times at this point, but this video wasn't designed for anybody other than those who already agree with Owen Jones, and it's work like this which is responsible for increasing failures in our public discourse. When people talk in this way, the sorting mechanism that is our conversation can't operate, and it becomes increasingly difficult to tell the good ideas from the bad. What that clip of Jacob Rees-Mogg highlights is that there really are two modes of operation here. We have our conversations and then we have violence, and when our conversations fail, all we have left is violence, and that's plain to see. And it's videos like these, stunting our public conversations, that are going to get us there. It's operating within a framework that is so ideologically closed that the content of the argument is unlikely to appeal to anybody who doesn't already agree with it. And yet Owen has the temerity to complain of cultural warfare. This video alone is evidence that Owen is both an architect and purveyor of cultural class warfare. His complaints are completely hollow. So there it is. To complain of cultural warfare in a video that dogmatically asserts so much, yet substantiates so little, of what is believed by so few, represents a staggering lack of insight on the part of Owen Jones.